Today on Typical Books, we're going to be talking about some of the horror books coming out this December. Now, I had a heck of a time finding a lot, so I thought this might be helpful if you're looking for Christmassy books, because there's very few of them this year. Last year there seemed to be quite a few more. A lot of them come out in November, so I'll be rehashing a couple books I already mentioned, and one that I had missed, and just adding a few books from November to the beginning, and then into some of the horror that is coming out this month. I guess, horror authors, I'll take a break. Or we blew our collective loads in October and don't have a lot on the plate right now. Maybe we're preparing for that January slump, which I don't always notice because we collectively, horror fans and readers, read a lot of independent publishing and small press stuff these days. So maybe they're not as beholden to the Tuesdays publishing thing and taking breaks at the ends of fiscal, whenever the fiscal year ends for publishing. So yeah, there's not a heck of a lot, but I think I have 7 or 8 books here for us to talk about today. The first book came out January 29th, I believe. It is Christmas Chaos, Twisted Tales of Holiday Terror. Various artists, it's an anthology. If you like a lot of short, sharp shocks, so to speak, with your horror around the holidays and you want a holiday-themed anthology, here you go. The holidays are a time for cheer, warmth, and togetherness, or so we thought. Christmas Chaos is a chilling anthology that brings together 50 new tales from the darkest corners of Christmas, where gifts come with a curse, carolers sing of doom, and Santa's visit might be your last. I love that description. So this comes out from Outsider Publishing, and it's a publisher I've never heard of. So yeah, there's a lot of that, isn't there? The next one really caught my eye because here in Ottawa and the surrounding areas, Hollywood North, you might know it as. Vancouver is also Hollywood North. Hollywood North is basically all of Canada, but we do a lot of Hallmark movies here. I've driven by them on the bus. You see snow in the middle of July, they're filming a movie. They film it this time of year too. There's Hallmark movies going on in Almont right now, and like I said, surrounding areas all year round, they're filming Hallmark holiday films. I've never watched any of them. I think I watched Santa's Little Helper because my dad thought it was Satan's Little Helper and rented it by accident. But anyway, I digress. To Hell with Hallmark by Brad Ricks came out November 15th, but I thought I'd talk about it now. Welcome to Hallmark, Vermont. I would go to Hallmark, Vermont. The setting for every cliched Christmas dream. Idyllic and picturesque, it's where the real Christmas magic happens. Here, a lonely librarian bumps into the man of her dreams and is swept away in a whirlwind romance. A big city girl runs into her high school sweetheart and rekindles a holiday spark. A secret prince escapes the pressures of royalty and finds his true love. Except this year, something sinister has infected Hallmark's Christmas magic. Thank fucking God. Turning Christmas morning into Christmas Eve nightmares. And I, for one, am here for it. Hell has come to Hallmark is the tagline. I would watch that film. I would revel in that because, I mean, it's nice. We get a lot of talent working here. We get a lot of talent that travels here. It's good for our economy. I know all those great movie industry things. But man, Christmas movies, why can't we just film horror? I mean, Clown, Eli Roth produced film Clown, was filmed here. I mean, Del Toro films are filmed nearby. Why can't we just do that year round instead? To hell with Hallmark. And of course, like I talked about in the last video, with a cover that made my podcast partner from Dead Air Podcast, Wes Dead Air Knipe, pick up this book. You Can't Take It With You by Marcus Hawk. Christmas Eve, 1984. Montgomery Nolan is about to die. Even at 90 years old, it's never enough. But he has a way out. A way to live beyond death. No longer hunted by time, he will become the hunter, and night will be anything but silent. From Marcus Hawk, the author of Miracle Sin and Grey Noise, which again I will say was amazing, comes a bold new vampire tale, one of greed and lust, power and immortality, age and youth, and of course, blood. So yeah, that cover, it speaks volumes. I had likened it to a Penny Dreadful. I love the look of this cover. of course, beyond measure. And that is the end of our really deeply Christmassy Christmas horror holiday books on offer. I talked about Bellevue by Robin Cook previously. I won't talk about it again except to say that I'm quite interested in this. Whether it turns out to be like a typical Robin Cook thriller fare, I'm fine with that. I haven't read a Robin Cook book in a very long time. A book that has gotten a lot of buzz, and I'm surprised I didn't mention it before, The Rising, More Selected Scenes from the End of the World by Brian Keene. And a lot of people are very excited to hear about this. 20 years ago, multiple Bram Stoker Award winner and World Horror Grandmaster Brian Keene's The Rising was credited with revitalizing the horror fiction genre and giving zombies an upgrade. In the decades since, the series has spawned 3 sequels and earned generations of eager fans from all walks of life, united in the hope that the author would return once again to the franchise. And I will stop there before I continue with that and mention there's also a copy of The Rising, the first edition of The Rising, that was for sale for the longest time in Allentown, Pennsylvania at 2nd and Charles for I think like $100 or something like that. If you're interested, it might still be there. Anyway, back to the show. This book is that return. The Rising, More Selected Stories from the End of the World, features a splattering of new stories set in the world of Brian Keene's The Rising franchise, complemented with original illustrations by Anthrax's Charlie Benante. Featuring tales set both before and after the events of the previous books, it will appeal to longtime fans and new readers alike. I liked The Rising. It was great. You know, it was not my top 10. It is definitely my top 10 zombie books. Who am I kidding? But it's not like my favorite horror book of all time. I can understand the fandom, though, because it did a lot of things. I read it way after, though. I read it very late. I didn't come to Brian Keene on time at all, unfortunately, for me. I missed his whole leisure catalog, really, honestly. So I'm picking up back catalog. I love Darkness on the Edge of Town, and I would love to see more of that, but yeah. This is cool. The Rising, More Selected Scenes from the End of the World by Brian Keene. If you like The Mist and you've not read The Rising, definitely do it. If you like The Mist and 28 Days Later, I guess, is a little more apt than The Walking Dead. But hey, Walking Dead fans would love it too. December 4th, Heathen Magazine. If you're looking for a new digital magazine, it is a full-fledged magazine, not just a website. As much as I love a lot of those sites like Nightmare Magazine, I want like a magazine, right? And I really like a print magazine, but I digress. Heathen, it's the first issue coming out. Heathen is a new literary magazine and multimedia platform spotlighting the best in horror and dark fantasy fiction. Released quarterly, the stories you'll find in Heathen will be collected in popular digital formats. Once a year, the most read stories will be collected in a physical annual that will be available for purchase. And this is the part that makes me so very happy. So I haven't looked at the submission guidelines. If they're out there, they're probably on the Horror Tree or Submission Grinder. I'll have to take a look. I really love the idea of a magazine being printed once a year. I mean, I love things like Black Static. It's really hard to get here when it was popularly in print. I don't even know if it's in print anymore, but I'm looking forward to Heathen Magazine, especially the annual print edition. On December 6th, we have We All Go Into the Dark by Kevin Lucia, and I really like the cover of this because it evokes, for whatever reason, just the cover alone, the feeling of like Alan Wake video games or Control, that sort of world. And it just looks so dynamic, but it's also got like a noir feel, sort of like an Innsmouthian feel, but I don't know if I'm reading too far into that. No matter who we are, banker, lawyer, carpenter, darkness awaits us all. And no town is more acquainted with darkness than Clifton Heights, New York. We All Go Into the Dark takes you through 4 chilling tales where fear lurks around every corner and shadows stretch long no matter the time of day. The 4 stories are Zoo Town, The Man Who Sits in His Chair, In the Court of the Spider King, and To Slip the Surly Bonds of Earth. I love the word surly. We All Go Into the Dark, Kevin Lucia, masterfully blends atmospheric horror with cosmic dark fantasy, taking readers on a spine-chilling journey through small-town myths, cult horrors, and paranormal mysteries. If you enjoy creepy ghost stories, mysterious lore, and ever-present sense of the ancient evil lurking just out of sight, this collection will haunt you long after the final page is turned. And I am a stranger to Kevin Lucia. I am very excited for this because of the cover and that description. Not a huge dark fantasy fan, but cosmic dark fantasy, you've got me. And yeah, I really like the cover. That really sells me, like it does in the stores, right? I like to think of this as like a little shopping trip. We are going shopping and looking at the books and being like, hey, check it out. December 7th, All Your Friends Are Here by M. Shaw. We've been trying to play it cool, but at least we can confirm that we've secretly always dreamed of all your friends are here. Why leave your apartment ever again? All your friends are here. Why go to outer space? All your friends are here. Why grow or dream? Why take that vacation you've been saving up for? Why set yourself free? All your friends are here. I had to read it with a little bit of drama, right? I mean, I don't really know what the book's about. The cover looks cool, but I don't really know what the book's about, except that all your friends are here. December 10th, Neon Nightmares by Isaac Nightingale. I love the cover of this. I don't go for 80s nostalgia, but whenever I see these covers, I can't help but say, hey man, I love this cover, because VHS covers were a huge part of my childhood. I spent a lot of time in video stores just marveling over all the horror covers. The cover for House, I really need the poster of that hand ringing the doorbell, because ding dong, you're dead. I mean, I stared at that. Well, years before I was allowed to rent it and years after. So yeah, Neon Nightmares looks a little bit anime, doesn't it? 9 years ago, I was beaten to a pulp, left for dead, and imprisoned for a murder I didn't commit. When I got out, I took one hell of a road trip for revenge, spurred by a rock-hard grudge and a thirst for blood. But revenge wasn't enough. What started as a hunt to kill a pair of vampires turned into a mission to kill them all. Super serum, hot sauce, 2 haunted revolvers, a Texan gunslinger, Mexican murder machine, vampire strippers, a skin-wearing serial killer, monsters, mayhem, bullets, and blood. So it might not be Christmassy, but I think that should end up in somebody's stocking, because that sounds really fun. Yeah. Neon Nightmares. I've never heard of Isaac Nightingale, but I believe that many of us will soon. And if that sort of action isn't your bag, we've got some westerns, some maybe bizarro westerns, but they're horror westerns nevertheless. Splatter western, I guess is the term. Sing Me a Death Song by Robert Essig. Those who can leave are fleeing, but pride keeps others around, hoping a death song isn't sung for them. Those unfortunates don't make it through the night, and the aftermath is a testament to brutality. After a strange homecoming, Blue seeks guidance from an old flame. Louise uses her psychic abilities, but the cloud of darkness hanging over Le Plateau is thick. The people are scared. Blue has to face fears of an entire town and partner up with the unlikely allies to have a chance at getting the family ranch back from a gang of psychopaths with one motive: vengeance against Blue. Whose name will be on the lips that sing the next death song? Probably Blue. I'm just guessing. And to stay on that splatter western train rolling into them thar hills, we've got Where the Daybreak Ends, stories from Buzzard's Edge by Brendan LaFaro, illustrated by Val Halverson. And I just love the way that these two covers come together. If you have some holiday blues and you want to perk yourself up in January and ride on and down them dusty trails, I don't know. Alone in the desert and covered in blood, Zaya Dennis comes across an abandoned town and 2 unlikely storytellers burdened with sharing its history, past, present, and future. Rogue gangs of vampires, young witches, flayed cadavers, giant lizards, and men with dark hearts dwell in these pages. Looming over Buzzard's Edge, a town full of people struggling to survive in an unforgiving Arizona frontier. So sit down a spell and settle where the daybreak ends. A nice clutch of holiday horror to start with, and ending with a bunch of splatter western. I mean, what more could you ask for? So if you, like me, had a hard time finding a lot of like Christmassy horror or horror coming out in December at all, here's a couple books to tide you over. Have you read any of these? If they're on your TBR now, or if you've already read them, let me know in the comments below. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about some winter horror, things I like to read most years when it gets cold outside, and maybe some films that I watch too. Is there anything that you read every single winter, or that you think really sets the mood for that even in the off season? Let me know in the comments, or I'm on Blue Sky now, so you can check out my Blue Sky account if you want to leave a comment there, or of course, as always, typicalbooks.com. Thank you very much for watching, and have an ooky, spooky day.